I'm going to be talking about self, death, and afterlife for the AQA A-Level Religious Studies spec. Disclaimer, I'm a student, not a teacher. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm slowly losing the will to live. My exam is in 3 days. Okay, so let's get started. This is relatively small, but I find this quite confusing. So, if you do too, then, we're in this together. So, first off, the soul is a non-material essence of a living being, but I think everyone probably knows that or has their own idea of what the soul is. But first off, we're talking about the ancient Greeks. Say what you want about them, but they had a lot of annoying guys who would just walk around and philosophize or whatever. One of them being Plato. So in Plato's Republic, he wrote about the soul or the psyche, and he said that it was distinct from the body and it consists of 3 different parts. So logos is reason, which is unique to people. It's the rational part of the brain. Thymos, which is emotions, which is obviously irrational. And eros, which is desire, so like for food and sex or whatever. He said that the body was merely a vessel for the soul, and that the soul is immortal and can access the spiritual realm, which is a fun thing that I guess he believed in. And Aristotle, who agreed with Plato, they might have been mates. I'm not entirely sure on the timing of their lives. But he agreed that the soul was the essence of a person, but he didn't believe that the body could exist without it. So he said that the soul is what allows the living thing to actually have a purpose and, live a life. He said that plants had souls that were to nourish and reproduce. Animals, it helps them nourish and reproduce, but also move and perceive. And humans have the unique ability to reason, and that's what makes our souls better than all the other souls in this point of view. Now, this guy, you probably know him. He had a lot to say about the soul. He put forward dualism. He said the mind and body were 2 distinct substances, mind and matter. So I guess that's probably where mind over matter comes from. And he put forward 3 arguments. The first one was the argument of doubt, which is probably his most famous thing ever. So he said that it is possible to doubt anything exists, but it's impossible to doubt the existence of the self. So if you were crazy, you could be like, wow, literally no one else is real, nothing here is real. But the fact that you have this mind and you're thinking to yourself, you know that you're real, you can't doubt the existence of that. So it's cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, the famous quote. The next one is the argument of conceivability. So, it's possible to imagine that the self or the soul can exist outside of our bodies. So, because we can conceive of it, we can conclude that the soul is a different substance to the body. And lastly, the argument from divisibility and extension. The body and soul have different properties, so the body is divisible, whereas the soul is not. Kind of, I don't know, Dexter Morgan style. You can chop up someone's body, but you can't chop up their soul. It's kind of deep, actually. So in terms of the relationship between the body and soul, Descartes talked about dualism. So obviously he believed that the mind and matter were 2 distinct entities which are united in human beings, and it makes up all of the universe. He said they can casually interact, but they are not dependent on one another, which is very important. He said that they are contingently connected. So the soul doesn't need the body to continue, right? Not everyone agrees with dualism. Some people point out that Descartes' view is non-reductive, so in the sense that it does not attempt to explain the soul in other terms. It just kind of just focuses too much on what it's saying. It's very full of itself. And then there's Gilbert Ryle. Now he puts forward monism, the idea that the body and mind are one. They don't exist separately, like Rene Descartes says. I'm not sure why he's got like a courtroom sketch painting going on, but yeah, so he says that the mind and body being two separate entities is a category mistake made by misunderstanding of language. So the way he explains this is, if you ask someone to describe what Oxford University is, they might say, oh, it's the colleges, it's the facilities, it's the buildings that make up the university. But there is no Oxford University in of itself. It's just, it is the thing. It's the collection of the buildings. It's not just a thing, you can't go looking for an Oxford University if there's nothing there. So that's kind of the point that he makes. And he also says that the mind is not a substance or a thing. When we talk about the mind, what we're actually talking about is just people's behaviors, their dispositions, their feelings, that kind of stuff. We've kind of attributed it to the mind, but it's not its own thing. Now, materialism is a popular form of monism, probably the most popular, made by this really, really annoying man. And he basically says that the mind is an aspect of our physical body, and the consciousness is just brain activity. Like, it's just the fact that we're alive. There is no separate soul that lives on, nothing like that. So this is Richard Dawkins. His whole thing is that humans can be explained in evolutionary terms. So, the parts of our mind that reasons and all that jazz, that just comes from millions of years of evolution. You might relate to this meme. I hate Richard Dawkins. So then that leads on to the question, though, of continuing personal existence after death. Because, if what Richard Dawkins is saying is right, then when you die, it's just lights off. Nothing happens. But, with, Plato and Aristotle and Descartes, it could be argued that maybe there is the ability to have the afterlife, which is what continuing personal existence after death means. It's just for some reason that's how they word it on the spec. So first off is John Hick's replica theory. Bit of an odd one. He says that if someone were to die, and then, the second they die, an identical replica were to appear in a different location with the same memories, the same personality, we would conclude that they were the same person. And God could, in theory, make replicas of everyone. Everyone gets a replica. It's a very interesting point of view. And then there's reincarnation, which is obviously common in Eastern religions. So, Hinduism, Buddhism, whatever. And it's where the aspect of a person will be reborn through the cycle of samsara. And it's based off of, karma. And the end goal is to achieve nirvana, break the cycle, the whole shebang. And the near-death experiences could potentially be evidence of the soul, because there have been incidents even. Moody, 1975, that is his name, he did a bunch of research, listed all these features. People feel peaceful, or they see a bright light, they go through a tunnel, they see dead relatives, all that funky jazz that we assume, and we kind of ascribe to dying has been observed a lot, so maybe, maybe there is a soul. So, yeah. Thank you for listening.